repeated his questions. After digging the two beds, the jar stopped digging the ground and repeated his questions. Questioned repeatedly. The hermit again gave no answer. For the second time, the jar also did not give him the answer. Though he listened to the questions of the jar, he did not give him any answers to the questions, but rose, stretched out his hand for the spade. Stretched out means extended. Extended his hand for the spade, for taking the spade from the jar. The hermit extended his hand for the spade, for getting the spade from the jar, and said, "Now rest a while, now rest for some time and let me work a bit for some time. Work a while. Now rest a while and let me work a bit." Here, the hermit wanted to take the spade from the jar for giving him rest, giving the jar rest for some time. And the hermit suggested that he might be allowed to work a bit. But the jar did not give him the spade and continued to dig. Though the hermit wanted to take the spade from the jar did not give him the spade and continued digging without stopping digging. Continued digging. In this way, 1 hour passed and another. The sun began to sink before the trees, and the jar at last stuck the spade into the ground. The sun began to sink behind the trees, and the jar at last stuck the spade into the ground and said, "I came to you, wise men, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me none, tell me so, and I will return home." For the third time, the sun began to sink, began to set behind the trees, and the jar at last stuck the spade into the ground. Finally, the jar stuck the spade into the ground and said to the hermit, he had come to him. Addressing the wise man, he also said that he had come to him for an answer to his questions. Here he also said that if he could not give any answers to his questions, he should tell him, and then he would return home. Now, students, this is the part of the lessons. Today you will prepare for the class. And now, the part I have discussed to you today will be looked back again for the grammatical items. From the textual parts, at the time of going through the text, side by side, you will have a knowledge of the grammars from the text-based sentences. Now see, in the previous class, you see, others declared that it was impossible. 54, page number 54, the last paragraph, page number 54. Now see, others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Now write down the sentence. Others declared. Text-based grammars. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Now see the sentence. Write down the sentence. Others declared. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. The right time for every action. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Now in this sentence, you see that others declared. This is the principal clause, and that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. This is the subordinating clause. Others declared. And if I ask you to convert the sentence into simple sentence, CONVERT, convert into simple sentence. Simple sentence or noun of declared. Noun of declared. What type of answer will you give? Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. If the instruction is given in this way, convert the sentence into simple sentence or use noun form of declared. What type of sentence will you give in answer? At the time of giving the answer, you will have to write the answer in this way. According to the declaration of others. ACCORDING. According to the declaration, DECLARATION. According to the declaration of others. According to the declaration of others. Here now see, declaration has been used as the noun form of declared. Others declared means according to the declaration of others. It was impossible. It was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Now, at the end, you will have to continue in this way. According to the declaration of others, it was impossible for one man. It was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. In this way, you will have to give the answer. In a single sentence, or in this simple sentence, you may use the noun form in this way. If you use the noun form in this way, this sentence will be converted into a simple sentence. Here, though there is the There are the two instructions given. The sentence is to be converted into simple sentence or use noun of declare. Here this is the single sentence or simple sentence. Here simple sentence has been used, which gives you the two answers of the instructions. You may give the noun form in another sentence also. What type of sentence will be written then? Others were of the declaration. Others were of the declarations. Others were of the declaration. That. Others were of the declaration. Others were of the declaration that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Others were of the declaration that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. In this way, you may give the answer. Here now see, here declaration has been used as the noun form of declared. Here this is the instruction given, use noun form of declared. Here if you write the sentence in this way, declaration has been used in the noun formation. Others were of the declaration that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Now in this way, you may give the answer. Now see, here this is the complex sentence. Others were of the declaration that. Here this is the principal clause, and that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. This is used as a subordinating clause. Here, this is not the simple sentence. This is the complex sentence. But here this is the simple sentence. In this simple sentence, you have used the noun form. In this answer, you have given the answers of the two instructions in this sentence. Now, suppose if the sentence is to be converted into negative sentence, what type of sentence will you write? If the sentence is to be written into negative sentence, use negative form or negative sentence. Use negative sentence. Negative sentence. What type of sentence will you write? Others declared that it was not possible to decide. Only you will have to write the answer in this way. Others declared that it was not possible. Others declared that it was not possible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. In this way, you will have to give the answer in the negative sentence. Suppose, if the sentence is given in this way, it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. Turn it into an interrogative sentence. Make it interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentence. What type of sentence will you write? Suppose it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. If the sentence is given in this way, and if you are asked to convert the sentence into interrogative formation, what type of sentence will you write? Then you will have to write the sentence in this way. Was it possible? Was it possible? Possible to decide. Was it possible? Was it possible to decide beforehand the right time for every action? In this way, if you write the sentence, you will complete the sentence. Was it possible to decide beforehand the right time for every action? In this way, at the end of the sentence, you will use an interrogative mark or note of interrogation. In this way, the sentence is to be converted into an interrogative sentence. Now, it was impossible for one man. Now write down another sentence. Number 2. It was impossible. It was impossible for one man to decide correctly, decide correctly the right time for every action. The right time for every action. This is the sentence taken from page number 55. At the top of the page, it was impossible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action. Now, if the sentence is to be converted into negative sentence, now write down the instructions. Make it negative sentence. Make it negative sentence. Make it negative sentence. Interrogatives, make it interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentence. Use noun of decide. Use noun of decide. Use adjective of correctly. Use adjective of correctly. Here, suppose in this way, if such instructions are given for you, what type of answers will you write? Now, for the first time, when you will go to write down the answers of the first instruction, make it negative sentence. Here you will have to write down the answers in this way. It was not possible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action. This will be the first answer. And in the second answer, make it interrogative in the same way as I have already written in the first answer of the first question. Was it possible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action? This will be the answer of the second instructions as written by me according to the first question. Now this is the second question. Here now see the third instruction. Noun of decide. Use noun of decide. If you want to convert the sentence using the noun form of decide, what type of answer will you write? Now, if you want to try to answer the question, use noun of decide. What is the noun form of decide? Decision is the noun form of decide. What type of answer will you give? Now you will have to answer the question in this way. It was impossible for one man. Third answer. Third instructions. It was impossible. It was impossible for one man to take decision. Decision, D-E-C-I-S-I-O-N, to take decision correctly, C-O-R-R-E-C-T-L-Y, correctly, to take decision correctly. It was impossible for one man to take decision correctly. To take decision correctly. Here, if you do not use any preposition for just before the words, the right time for every action, then it will not be correct. So you will have to write, it was impossible for one man to take decision correctly for the right time for every action, In this way, you will have to write the answer. Here students, you see that if you do not use the preposition for just before the right time for every action, it will not be correct. Here, decide is the verb word, but it has been converted into a noun word. When you will write the noun form of decide in this way in the sentence, you will have to use the preposition for, because there is the object, the right time for every action. Here, it was impossible for one man to take decision correctly for the right time. R-I-G-H-T. For the right time for every action. In this way, you will have to write the answers. Now see, here if the sentence is to be written using the adjective form of correctly, what type of sentence will you write? You will have to write the answers in this way. It was impossible for one man to take correct decision. If you write correct decision, to take correct decision, D-E-C-I-S-I-O-N, to take correct decision for the right time for every action. To take correct decision for the right time for every action. It was impossible for one man to take correct decision. Here correct has been used as the adjective form of correctly. In this way, if you put the answers in this way, using the adjective form, correct decision, correctly. Decide correctly. Here correct decision for the right time for every action. In this way, you may write the answers. Suppose if the 4 instructions were given in a single sentence, what type of answers will you write? Negative sentence, the sentence will be negative, sentence will be interrogative, there will be noun form of decide, there will be adjective form of correctly. What type of sentence will you write if you want to give the answers using the answers of 4 instructions in a single sentence? What type of answers will you write? Now think. Was it not impossible? Was it not impossible? Was it not impossible for one man to take correct decision for the right time for every action? Was it not impossible for one man? Now see. Was it not possible? If you write, was it not possible? It will be incorrect. But if you write, was it not impossible? It was impossible. Was it not impossible? It was impossible. Was it not impossible for one man to take correct decision for the right time for every action? If you write this sentence, in this sentence you see both the instructions were given. Now see, negative sentence in the first instruction, was it not impossible? Here not is there. Here this is the negative formation of the sentence. And interrogative sentence, here this is the use of negative, note of interrogation, and this is the structure of interrogative sentence, and noun form of decide, decision, and adjective form of correctly, correct. Here this is, in this way you may give the answers. So students, you have seen several ways of converting a sentence in a grammatical sense. So I hope you will go through the practice in this way. At the time of reading the text, you will have to pick up the sentences for which you will have to make practice for the grammars. You will have to prepare yourselves for the grammatical portions, for the textual part in this way. So side by side, at the time of going through the text, you will have to practice several grammatical items, picking up the sentence from the text. Now, this is the end of my class. In my next class, I will also discuss the textual part with several grammatical items in this way. Thank you.